let's talk about estrogen dominance today. And just give me 1 second and I'm going to connect us with Instagram so we can do this together at the same time. Boom, there we go. All right. Technology is so cool. Can do broadcasting in a number of different places. So you may have seen from us talking a little bit about it that my book, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, we're doing a third release of it as the third edition, and we are relaunching the whole party. We call it the relaunch party because we have so much content for you guys in the next 8 days. And I really hope it's going to help you really understand what the condition is about and most importantly, how to prevent it. You know, it's one of the foundational reasons why I do this work is because estrogen dominance has been such a big part of my life, but also my family's life. Most women in my family have been having some issues with estrogen dominance, various different types of estrogenic cancers. And so I made a promise to myself several years ago that I don't ever want to live from a place of fear anymore. And I really want to understand what's causing estrogen dominance and most importantly, what can I do to help myself? So I'm not a statistic in my family. You might have heard me say before that we have a joke in my family that most women have no uterus after 50. I'm 51 and I still got my uterus, and I'm hoping to hold on to it for as long as I live. But it takes work. So I'm genetically predispositioned towards having estrogen dominance. As you will learn from the symptoms that I'm going to mention in just a short second, it's actually a lot more common than you think. I feel like it's a very underdiagnosed and very underestimated form of a hormonal imbalance that more women should know about. And if you care for someone that you think should really know about this, do tag them in the comments, and so that they can get notified about this video and they can maybe participate in our party for the next 8 days. So let me also preface it by saying that don't tune out when you're going through perimenopause and menopause and say, wait a second, I'm going through perimenopause and menopause. There's no way I got estrogen dominance. I'm low on estrogen. I mean, in perimenopause, that's what progesterone, estrogen start dropping. You're in menopause, your estrogen is probably very low, right? That's the reason why you are in menopause. There's no way I can have estrogen dominance. This is where there's a big misconception. Maybe not the best term for estrogen dominance, but here's the kicker. If you think about it, most women who suffer from severe cases of estrogen dominance, which can then become cancers, estrogenic cancers, such as breast cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, lung cancer, thyroid cancer in women, is most of the time it develops after their 50s. In their 50s and 60s, breast cancer is more prevalent in the older population, not the younger women. So when you think about it, it's like when you're in your 50s and 60s, you've got low estrogen. Then how come you're having an estrogen receptor positive cancer? So that was my part of my whole journey of uncovering of what's going on. Why is this happening? And so I'm going to explain this a little bit more, why in perimenopause and menopause you can still have estrogen dominance. I just want you to stay in here with us. Don't log out. That is it's not relevant to you. It's relevant to the girl who is 17 years old, who's got terrible PMSs. It's relevant to a woman who's trying to get pregnant, who can't get pregnant. She might be estrogen dominant. It's relevant to a woman who is in her 40s, 50s, who's just entered perimenopause and she's going through hell. And is relevant to women who are already in menopause who can also have estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance can affect all age groups of women from the time we're having our cycles till the very end. So let me start off with a list of symptoms. And every day we are going to be talking about some topic on estrogen dominance. Today is a high level. What is estrogen dominance? What are the symptoms? What's causing it? The different types of estrogen dominance. And then after that, we're going to go into specific symptoms every day. So tomorrow is going to be about breast health. Then we're going to be talking about PMSs. We're going to be talking about fibroids. We have another day on hot flashes. Yet another day we've got breast cancer, right? So stay tuned. Every day there is something. If you're watching on Instagram, it's in a bio link. You can see all the days that are opening up. The whole schedule is there. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, then Jen, would you mind posting the link to our overcomingestrogendominance.com/events is the page where you can see the full lineup. And we got recipes for you, demos of recipes from, as you can see, I'm in Mexico right now on the beach in my bikini. And the thing was filmed 2 years ago in my house in Colorado in the winter. So you see some snow in the background. We're just repurposing the videos. But the lives obviously are going to be live. So why don't we start off with chapter 1 of my book, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance. By the way, it is a cookbook as well as a health book. So it starts off with like the theories and stuff, but then after that we have a whole bunch of recipes for you guys at the back, right? And that's the whole idea, is to empower you with food, nutrition, herbs, and a couple of supplements that can really make a difference. So who here already knows that you have estrogen dominance? So just raise your hand and just tell us, like, yep, you know that you have estrogen dominance. Let me start off with the symptoms first. And on page 31, we have a quiz here for you. So one thing you could do is start labeling them, also like counting them of how many are you experiencing, so that way you know. And so we're starting off with headaches, especially around your period, ovarian cysts or polyps, fibroids, breast lumps, fibrocystic breasts, endometriosis, itchy or restless legs, especially at night, heavy or painful periods, bloating, especially in the belly, ankles, around. This is basically all due to water retention, irregular periods or cycles that become more frequent as you age, hot flashes, irritability and anxiety, difficulty falling and staying asleep, dry skin or skin that has lost its fullness, spider or varicose veins, cellulite, fat around your hips, melasma, which is the facial browning above your lips or on the sides here. Some women also have it like right above their eyebrows. And bleaching doesn't help long term. Could also be heavy menstrual bleeding, irritability and mood swings, feeling unsettled, heavy bleeding or postmenopausal bleeding, crying spells for no good reason, can't fall asleep and stay asleep, infertility or subfertility, miscarriages in the first trimester, and mid-cycle spotting. There's other ones, you can also, like things like, I did cover that. Endometriosis is one of the big ones. So how many of you here are experiencing any of these symptoms? One other thing to also mention is gallbladder issues. Another very common symptom where we're going to get to that in the future talks, but there is a connection between, you can have estrogen dominance that thickens the bile so much that you end up developing gallstones and losing your gallbladder. But it's also a poorly functioning gallbladder that doesn't release sufficient amount of bile, can also cause the estrogen not to be bound up correctly, and that can also be contributing. So it's a two-way street when it comes to that. What would you guys prefer? Would you prefer, let's do it like a little poll. Would you prefer for me to read you from the chapter 1 and 2, or would you prefer for us to just focus on the Q&As today? We have another 45 minutes together, and so what would you prefer to happen? So let's open this up for a little bit of voting, and then we can decide from there. And while you're putting your comments in, I would also want to share with you, we are giving away 10 copies of Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, and one grand winner, so the 11th person, is going to get a copy of the book and our supplements called the Estrogen Reset Kit, which is like the supplements that really help clear estrogen. And all you have to do is just enter the word giveaway in the comments, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, you cannot do that. You're going to go to one of those platforms, Facebook or Instagram. Just enter the word giveaway, and then you stand a chance of winning something with us. We're going to be announcing the winner at the end of the month. So let me take a look. What would you guys prefer? I think there's a little bit of delay on whether we Q&As. Yeah, everybody's saying Q&As. Okay. So why don't we start off with your questions then? There's a lot of giveaways already. People are putting in. All right, so let's dive in and see what questions do you want me to cover. And while you're thinking of your question, there's a couple of concepts I would love to share with you, just to, forgive me, but I'm such a big I love educating women. I feel like an empower person is like, even if you're doing certain food changes, if you're doing certain taking certain supplements, the why behind it. And I think that's very much of an empowered, educated consumer phenomenon, and not just like taking anything because somebody said so, without somebody asks you why you're taking it, you're like, I don't know. We don't want to be that person, right? So let me talk a little bit about the two types of estrogen dominance that happens, and so that you have a little bit better context, because both of them require slightly different treatment or approach, I should say. So the first scenario, the first type of estrogen dominance, we call it the type 1 estrogen dominance, is when there is an imbalance between your estrogen and progesterone, right? So as we age, our progesterone declines, estrogen declines too. Problem is the progesterone declines way, way faster compared to estrogen, okay? And so it creates a sense of imbalance that unfortunately can lead to a lot of symptoms of estrogen dominance. This is the reason why, even though you're going through perimenopause and you're having, all these symptoms of perimenopause, your period is much shorter and whatnot, women still there are women, for example, who can experience terrible PMSs as they're going through perimenopause. And the more you struggle with estrogen dominance, the more severe the symptoms of perimenopause are going to be. So that is something that to address, right? And so estrogen progesterone ratio could be one of the issues, and you address it differently than compared to type 2 estrogen dominance. Type 2 estrogen dominance is what I call a bad breakup, is when you have your estrogen being broken down by the liver to clean estrogens, which are protective and good for you, because you need them, you need estrogen to function. We all know what happens in menopause, right? Like, you start forgetting things, your skin is not the same, and you're not as strong and all that, right? So the whole idea is that you need estrogen, but you need the good estrogens, and then not what I call the dirty estrogens. And the dirty estrogens are produced predominantly by poor gut microbiome and poor liver function. So as you can tell from these two types of estrogen dominance, there is a slightly different approach, right? If you have type 1 estrogen dominance, then the predominant approach is going to be, what can I do to correct my progesterone levels? That's when things like Vitex, which is an herb, or things like just doing bioidentical progesterone might be really helpful. There's no food per se that helps to raise progesterone. Unlike estrogen, there are foods and herbs that raise progesterone. With herbs, there's only one, that's Vitex, that has that ability. Some people argue that maca might. But that's one way of correcting it, right? Or you go with the bioidentical hormone direction. You can have, when you have more of the type 2 estrogen dominance, then you might want to be working more on your gut health and your liver health in order to overcome that type of estrogen dominance. Now, can you have two types of estrogen dominance? Absolutely. You can be having the balance off, and you're breaking them down incorrectly. You're producing too many dirty estrogens all at the same time. The good news about this book is that when you enter, when you get the book, the way we have designed the meal plans for you, right? So like this 2-week meal plan with all the recipes that are right at the back here. These recipes are already written in a way, and they are arranged in a way that they take care of your liver function, they take care of your gut health to a large degree, and they take care of your blood sugar balance. Those are the 3 predominant bodily systems that govern good hormonal balance, including estrogen dominance. So, for example, let me give you an example. For breakfast, majority of our breakfasts are going to be savory. They're going to be having savory food loaded with protein. Why? Because we want to sustain our blood sugar levels so you don't crash, which oftentimes is what we see with a lot of women. Blood sugar imbalances are causing anxiety. We're going to be talking about that later on our calls. But that's the reason why. So that's, for example, that's one thing that we've done. And we have recipes for you that do not have eggs, because it's very easy to create a bunch of recipes with a high in protein and just load it up with eggs. Not everybody can eat eggs. In fact, this whole book is based on the elimination diet, where you cut out eggs for 4 weeks, just so that you know whether eggs are your friend or you're maybe not so much of your friend, and so we have a lot of other protein ideas. Another example would be, how do you support your liver? Well, we have specific drinks for you, like herbal teas that support the liver function, like using things like dandelion root or burdock root, right? Or we have things like a smoothie that's got broccoli sprouts in it, avocado lime smoothie that has that already built in. And so guess what? The lemon, the flaxseed, the avocado, it's all of that is hugely supportive towards the liver. So that's the way the book has been designed. So it takes away the pain of you trying to figure out what to do. Like, oh my God, what do I do for my liver? Oh my God, what do I need to do for blood sugar balance? What do I need to do for my gut health, right? And so we've got that largely simplified for you and arranged in a way that it makes a lot of sense. Okay, does that make sense so far? All right, Anne is asking a really good question. What test should we run to identify which estrogen dominance? Blood work, Dutch test, something else? Great question. So yes, for the type 1 estrogen dominance, estrogen to progesterone, Dutch is going to be great. Dutch is also going to be great for the second type of estrogen dominance. So basically, Dutch test is for both. Blood work is not going to show you anything that is helpful in this context. Blood work is going to be great for other things like thyroid, for your, if you are going into menopause, you want to see what's your FSH like, follicle stimulating hormone or LH, or if you want to look at your blood sugar levels, blood work is fantastic for that, and it's very inexpensive. When it comes to steroid hormones like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, DHEA, cortisol levels, right? Blood is pretty useless. What Dutch also shows you is the metabolism of those estrogens, that the second type of estrogen dominance that I just mentioned. Okay, great question. I'm really glad, Anne, that you asked it, because I was just about to talk about it. So should we start with the baseline fasting? Is that in the book? So fasting is not for everyone. If you want to incorporate elements of fasting because you know that agrees with you, please go ahead and do that. I have no reservations about that. You can just follow. You can break a fast by doing a high protein breakfast that we recommend. What time you do it is absolutely up to you. You can do something like, you can do your fasting from like 5 p.m., for example, the day before, and then break your fast at 10 a.m. That gives you like a nice 16 hours of fast or so, right? If my math is correct. And so fasting is not for everyone. So that's just one thing I would also suggest. Like if you're really new to this, like if you're just getting on the whole health bandwagon now, and you're like, I need to get healthy, then don't do too many things at the same time. I think it's good to start off somewhere. And so I think this book is a really great baseline to do that. But Nicole, if you've been doing this for a long time and you feel like fasting is really agrees with you, go for it. You can just use our recipes and incorporate that into fasting. Do you think it's important to use progesterone cream and estrogen cream or no? I'm interested in how to fix estrogen dominance and not so much what it is or looks like. Well, I mean, I think without knowing what it looks like and what it is kind of, I think it makes hopefully more sense to you how to fix it. If I say, like, hey, use something, ABC to support your liver function, and you know why, because the liver breaks down estrogen. So I think having context is important here. My take on this is that progesterone doing bioidentical hormones is perfectly fine. I use them personally as well. I use a number of them, but I feel like a lot of the time we go straight into bioidentical hormones, and that includes our practitioners. A lot of practitioners just go put women straight away on hormones without addressing a lot of underlying issues, such as very poor digestion, poor liver function, blood sugar levels that are completely out of control. And the end result is that there's a couple of things that can happen. One is that women just respond well to their hormones at first, and then they don't. Or the symptoms don't completely clear. They improve somewhat, like they suddenly sleep better, they become stronger, leaner, but they still got those underlying issues that are still lingering on. And the worst thing that I feel that is a disservice to women is that, you know how people, you've heard people say, I'm sure, right? Like, was this healthy person, my neighbor is this healthy person, my sister was this healthy person, suddenly she got breast cancer. Well, here's the thing. Breast cancer doesn't just show up like that. You know, it doesn't just decide 2 weeks prior to just show up. It's a progressive, it's years of progressive struggling of the body, inflammation that's going on, struggling digestion, struggling liver function. And we just choose to ignore a lot of the symptoms. A lot of it's nobody's fault, you guys. I'm not blaming here anyone, because the truth of the matter is that our conventional doctors never taught us this, right? It's more like, oh, if I have a symptom, I go and see a doc. What's the pill that I'm going to take, kind of an approach. All I'm offering you here is to really understand, like, what are some of the symptoms that you're suffering from, and addressing them as early as possible. It's kind of like preventative in a way. And that can lead to a lot more results further down the road. What I see a lot of the time is like women are like taking progesterone right away. And that includes our community as well. It's like, I don't want to make any diet changes. Don't ask me to do any diet changes. I just want to do a bioidentical hormone. Which one, right? So if we have no choice, that would be like, okay, well, try a progesterone cream. Great. But then this person comes back after 3 months. She's like, yeah, but I still got hot flashes. And then when we dig deeper, then we discover, oh, this person actually has like these really bad blood sugar balance fluctuations. Let me tell you like a little true story. Back in the day when I was in private practice, I lived in practice in New York City. And I had a doctor client, right? So she was my client. She was a doctor. She was an ER doc. She was working during the day. And so what she discovered when she started working with me, I asked her to keep a food journal, right? So she was very reluctant to do that. She's like, oh, really? I'm like, just give it a try for like a week. So what she concluded on her own, smart woman, obviously, you know, otherwise you're not an ER doc. She comes back and she says, you know, I noticed that my hot flash is always at 11 a.m. So if I have like a handful of nuts, like almonds, like 10 or 15 minutes before 11 a.m., I wouldn't get the hot flash. And imagine like being an ER doc when you've got like somebody coming in there, you know, there's all broken up and blood is gushing, right? I mean, all of that. New York is a pretty tough city. You could just imagine like the amount of stress that she was dealing with. And so the last thing you want is a hot flash. And so it was amazing for her to realize that having these almonds, right, before 15 minutes before 11 will take away her hot flashes. But I said to her, well, what's your breakfast like? And it turned out that her breakfast was oatmeal with fruits and some maple syrup on top, right? So it's all carby, no protein in there whatsoever. And so then I said to her, how about we change your breakfast? So we changed her breakfast to having a lot more protein, savory kind of a breakfast, right? And she never had another hot flash again. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because she could have gone immediately the bioidentical hormone way. It's just when your body is really struggling with, so, you know, one of the things we are going to be talking about is hot flashes. I really gave you a big tip here that when your blood sugar levels are up and down, especially when it's crashing, it goes down, you go into a hypoglycemic episode, you may get a hot flash. Okay. So this is the reason why I feel like bioidentical hormones have their place, but also figuring out your diet, cleaning up your diet is going to be nurturing your body, giving it the nutrients that it needs is going to be hugely helpful. It's not one or the other. They go both hand in hand. And I think it's really worth you doing it so that you kind of future-proof yourself, if you will. Okay. So for those of you who are coming a little bit late, if you enter the word giveaway, we're giving away 10 copies of the book, and then the big winner gets a copy of the book plus our estrogen reset kit, which is like 3 supplements that help to clear estrogens. Jen, let me go over to Instagram for just a second and see what we've got there. Someone is talking about, like, asking about the connection between low T3 hormone and estrogen dominance. Yeah, so estrogen dominance is that's a great question. For those of you who also have a low thyroid function and estrogen dominance, very common. And my good friend, Dr. Isabella Owens, and I have done videos on this together. where she actually explained that to me, that the body produces T4 hormone. It needs to be converted to the T3, but having excess of estrogen can actually inhibit the conversion of T4 to T3. So you might be, for example, taking some hormone replacement therapy for thyroid, like Synthroid is one example, right? And it's all synthetic T4. So your body then depends on converting it to T3, which is T3 is your working horse for thyroid. It gives you beautiful hair, great mental functions, energy, nice skin and all of that, right? Focus. And so when that conversion is inhibited it can be inhibited by a number of different things, poor liver function, poor gut health, but also excessive estrogen. That's when the conversion can be inhibited. So I'm glad you asked that question. So I think I talked already about how to get this diagnosed. I was just diagnosed with thick endometrial lining, and is that a cause by estrogen dominance? Yes, it is. So think of when you think about think endometrial lining. Just there's one of the synonyms that will compare it, like the little analogies that we use often at Hormones Balance here, is that estrogen is the builder, right? So you have a lot of estrogen. It's like you throw estrogen around, it's going to make the grass grow. And progesterone is the mower, right? It comes and it goes like slashing things down. And so they both have a role, because you need the growth and you need the slashing, right? So when somebody is having thick endometrial lining, there's definitely worth for you to explore what is your levels of estrogen. And it's not total estrogen, but the dirty estrogens. And you can get that measure by Dutch test. In a Dutch test, you're looking at the dirty metabolites. Can you reduce the size of a fibroid size 13 centimeters with lifestyle, or is it too late? So it depends on the person. 13 centimeters is a very large fibroid. I think it would be quite optimistic to say yes. And if you decide to go have, for example, we're going to be talking, by the way, Sophia, we're going to be talking about fibroids. That's got a whole day I've got dedicated to fibroids. So stay tuned for that. It's on our website. You can see it there. So for those of you who are joining late, you can go on Instagram. You can go to our bio link. It takes you to a page that has got a full lineup of days of what is the content we are releasing every day. So you can see that on the Facebook. Jen has posted a link there. So the cool thing about the fibroids, let me start off with the difficult part about fibroids, is that even if you're having a surgical intervention, whether it's getting a total removal, they cut off the blood supply to the fibroid, either way, if you're not addressing estrogen dominance, you're going to get a fibroid growing somewhere else, okay? And that is something that's been constantly happening to women with fibroids. So in order to really nip it in the bud, you might end up having a surgical procedure of sorts, and then embark on the protocol, which, by the way, there's a whole chapter here about fibroids, what supplements to take, what herbs that can really help, and most importantly, the diet that you need to change to not feed those dirty estrogens anymore. And that way you can be, in a place of more confidence and sleeping better. Then that fibroid is most likely not going to come back. For those of you who are new to our community, we had can I just tell you guys, I did this one video, me in my bathing suit at a swimming pool. I'm in Mexico, right now, spending this winter here, because I could not think of, I could not bear the idea of spending another winter in Colorado. I was done with cold. So I wanted something tropical. So here I am in Mexico, on the Caribbean side, in my camper van. I'm in a Mercedes Sprinter camper van. It's my little casita, my little home. And, one of the things that was happening, and I lost what I was going to say about that. It will come back. Anyway, I know I was going somewhere, and then I shouldn't have gone off the track. But anyway, it will come back. I'm sure there's something that I wanted to tell you about. Is artichoke really a good one to help detox the liver from estrogen? Yes, it's one of the herbs that is really great. And if you get on the elimination diet, it's going to support your liver in a huge way as well. I have histamine intolerance. Can taking dimsulfiram help in suffering from hormone replacement therapy? So first of all, there's an interesting connection between histamine intolerance and estrogen dominance. They feed each other, by the way, right? So estrogen dominance creates for the mast cell to produce more histamine, and histamine also, high histamine levels also causes too much estrogen to be released by the ovaries. So you might, it's a case where you want to be addressing both of them at the same time. And this is not a low histamine book, so I cannot write a book to suit everyone. I've got questions about vegetarians and vegans and people who want to do paleo and people who do the zone diet and people histamine intolerant. So it's just virtually you're gonna be down to like 2 vegetables. But the idea would be that if you just take the book and the recipes and you modify it based on what you know about histamine, that this is gonna be super helpful. What's the best hormonal ratio? It all depends what you're measuring with, whether it's blood or saliva, or so it's and the labs are gonna show you that. So aromatase inhibitors have driven my estrogen way down. That's great. So aromatase inhibitors, basically what Jody is talking about is which by the way, there is passion flower like growing everywhere here. I need to do a little story about that. There's so beautiful. Like I go to the bathroom and there is like literally it's covered by passion flower growing everywhere here. And so passion flower is one of the aromatic inhibitors. It basically means that it slows down the conversion of testosterone to estrogens, and that's great. What aromatase inhibitors don't do, though, is they don't really help you break down estrogens correctly. So if that helps you, is great. Hopefully it's not at the expense of like suppressing your estrogen altogether. Is progesterone only a pill and answer? Or are you just messing with natural hormone balance? No, I think progesterone pill is fine. Especially it works only on the GABA receptor, so it's got a really nice like a calming effect, and it's gonna help you sleep. Again, if we're talking about future proving your health here, which is not the sexiest topic, but I think many of you here are from that opinion, are in that boat where like I don't want to just treat a symptom. I want to do something for myself now so that I'm healthy for a long time. I'm not one of those people who's like suddenly has a disease. Like people suddenly, like I talked about at the beginning of this video, like, oh, my sister suddenly got breast cancer. No, it's not sudden. She probably had symptoms for a very long time, various ones showing inflammation, nutritional deficiency, a lot of stress, a lot of hormonal imbalances. They just went unaddressed. And then suddenly it happened. It doesn't happen suddenly. So this is your opportunity to really take reins of your own health. What is Dutch test? Dutch test is, you can go and take a look at it. We have all the tests for you actually lined up for you at yourlabwork.com/hormonesbalance is the URL. And Jen, would you mind posting on Instagram the URL? And I should both of them. Okay, and then on the Dutch test, if estrogen is high, will it show? Yes, of course it would. How do you feel about wild yam cream? It doesn't work. So on its own, it doesn't work. Like if you have, Frankie and what was the name of that show? Frankie and Grace, right? And Frankie starts dating this farmer who's a yam farmer, right? Really sweet guy, and she starts producing yam creams, and that helps all the women. Well, that's Hollywood's take on our hormones, because no, yams on their own don't actually work. They still need to be transformed in the lab. So like, for example, our progesterone cream and oil both produced from wild yams, but it needs to be modified in the lab in order to fit a human receptor. On its own, they don't do anything. Okay, so many of you entered the giveaway. What are the supplements that help clear estrogen dominance? So we've got those in, if you go to the our launch page, the overcomingestроgendominance.com/events, it's mentioned there. It's basically 3 things: DIM, sulforaphane, and calcium D-glucarate. And so those are the 3 things that clear it. Tracy saying my daughter-in-law has high estrogen and she's only 20 years old. Yeah, one of the things that you will learn as we go through, and this is, I think, on the last day, on day 8, I'm talking about it is in one of the chapters. It's so funny. My dog is sleeping and she's dreaming, so she's now barking to herself. So what happens is estrogen, like the question is, why do you get estrogen dominance, right? And I think that knowing the why is really important, because once you know what the why is, then you can prevent it or you can reduce the symptoms. So one of the ways women get estrogen dominance is from external products, right? So we have a whole chapter here on beyond the diet. So it talks about what is a clean skincare line, and we have a few brands there, but it's just, I give you more of like, I teach you how to fish rather than giving you the fish. And so you know what to look for. And, that's why, like, for example, our skincare products will never have things like phthalates or BPAs in it, and we never use cocoa betaine, and the list just goes on and on. So it's very common for younger and younger women to have high estrogens. It could be because of the skincare that you're using, the cosmetics that you're using, because of the stuff that we cook in. There's a lot of toxins in the cookware. So we're going to talk about that on day 8 as well. There is also could be high estrogen because of birth control pills, right? That doesn't have progestin in it, but even with progestin is not the greatest option. So there's a lot of reasons why we are estrogen dominant. Sally is saying, I'm on estrogen blockers because of past breast cancers. Is there anything I can take that helps with joint pain and loss of collagen in face? I'm 46 years old. So Sally, I would strongly suggest for you to work with a functional oncologist who understands how to work with cancers in a holistic way, help you detox the body, help you metabolize estrogens correctly. When you're blocking estrogen, there is not much that you can do, because it's not just loss of joint pain and loss of collagen in the face, but it's going to be a lot of other things that's going to come in. Low estrogen, as you're blocking estrogen, other symptoms will include things like forgetfulness, having like a sense of loss of purpose. For a lot of women, it just becomes also weaker muscles, and then it goes into the bones. So osteopenia starts crawling in, right? Our cardiovascular health can take a dive. Estrogen blockers is a allopathic medicine's way of treating cancers. You just like block the cancer from coming in, so you just block it, right? Instead of asking the question, what's feeding the cancer? What can we do to starve off the cancer, and not give it the fuel that it lives on, such as, for example, estrogen, the dirty estrogens that I talked about, right? So let's go over, Jen, to our Facebook page. What if you have gotten off 20 years of birth control pills? How long do you wait to get Dutch? I would say until you get your cycle. So I don't know how old you are, but if you want to wait for your cycle, arrive first and then do it, that might be a good time to do it. Breast pain and swelling, is that estrogen dominant symptom? Yes, it is. In fact, we're going to be talking about breast health tomorrow. We're going to be talking about fibrocystic breast, cystic, so benign cysts on the breasts, just having a lot of pain, discomfort, swelling. All of that is absolutely a symptom of estrogen dominance, and we're going to be talking about that right tomorrow. So make sure you log in for that. I'm definitely very passionate about it because I've struggled with breast health my whole life. And so getting that resolved and never finding another lump was really, have been very gratifying. And so for those of you who maybe don't know my story, I have been dealing with, I've struggled with estrogen dominance most of my life. And so ever since I remember being even a young girl, just having horrendous PMSs, always having a problem to remove my rings or put shoes on my feet, right? So all the water retention, having thyroid nodules, I had a number of them, having horrible migraines, or cyclical migraines. And so, it's, and whenever I put on weight, like it will always be around my thighs and my butt. terrible mood swings. So to a point where these mood swings were like compromising some of the most cherished relationships in my life, which I regret till today. So that's basically that. And then historically, I'm predispositioned to have estrogen dominance from both sides of my family. I clear estrogens very slowly. I'm a very, very slow estrogen metabolizer. And by the way, Dutch test can show you all of that. And this is the reason why, when was that, like 12 years ago, when I found out I had hair loss. And it wasn't because of my thyroid. My thyroid actually was looking good, even though I have a history of Hashimoto's. But at that point, my thyroid was actually looking good, but I still had a lot of hair loss. I was like pulling out hair like this. And, I don't have a lot of hair. So just seeing so much come off was very heartbreaking. And when I was very lucky to find a doctor who just did a blood test, and it's like a little bit old fashioned now, that 4 to 16 hydroxyestrone is a blood test. It doesn't show you a hell of a lot, but it was better than nothing. And she's like, oh yeah, you got estrogen dominance. And then I was like, what is that? And I was already doing healthcare stuff. Like I was doing health coaching, and I was already certified to do this work, and I was working with thyroid and Hashimoto's patients, and I was really shocked when I started looking at estrogen dominance and how little resources there were. So one of the things, and I ended up going on this journey of being like, oh my God, I didn't know that liver function can play a huge role in how we metabolize estrogens. Oh my God, I can just add a bit of flaxseed and actually help myself so much. And even though flaxseed is estrogenic, it's got all the good estrogens, and it actually blocks the bad estrogens. Phytoestrogens are so fantastic and so complex in a way, but also fascinating if you really understand the science behind it. So this is the reason why I ended up having, writing a book about it, because at first it was just taking notes for myself. It's like, what are the things for my liver? What are the things for blocking estrogen? What are the things that I can help to skew the balance towards the clean estrogens away from the dirty estrogens, right? And this is where this book basically came about. Some people asking about the book. It's available on Amazon, and if you want to enter the giveaway, then do so now, and you stand a chance. There's 10 of you, actually 11 of you, are gonna be getting the book. So pretty good chance of getting something. All right, Jen, let's do a couple of more. Karen's saying I'm 48. Fully menopausal. I'm miserable with weight gain. Is there hope for me? Absolutely. Yes. And I'm not saying that everything that you're going to implement here is going to resolve 100% of your symptoms, but it's going to lay such a great foundation so that, for example, if when you embark on the meal plans, right, you learn to eat this way. And by the way, when I say this way, it's not some weird way of eating that you're like only eating meat, 80% meat and just a little bit of vegetables, or some weird way of like eating for 3 hours in a day. Like when I talk about this way of eating, it's like when my friends come and eat and hang out with me, they're like, oh my God, it's so good. Can I have more? Right. And it's stuff that you find in any supermarket, and it's just low inflammation, high nutrient dense food. That's really what you're doing. And I'm just stretching your imagination a little bit of what are the foods that you can work with. So put that as a foundation. You go through the elimination diet, you embark on this low inflammatory diet, add a couple of supplements to really help you metabolize your hormones correctly. If that's not helping, then we can help you, Karen. We can point you towards practitioners who are great, who work with bioidentical hormones, and then you can dial it in any further and further and further. It's a little bit like peeling an onion, right? But the first thing you need to do is set the foundation, and that is get on a really good diet, add a couple of supplements, and that's going to be your most essential. That's going to be your biggest foundation. That's going to carry you through forever. If I have a cyst on my pituitary gland, could something help with my hormones? So that's something you need to check with your doctor. This is a little bit outside of what we are doing here. Can you talk about period flu and estrogen? So when there is, when there's fluctuations of estrogen, right, going up and down, when estrogen just before your period comes, estrogen is very low, progesterone is very low. They both come down to this lowest point. That's the reason why we feel kind of funky. And for some women, it can feel like flu. Other women are going to have a lot of cravings, like for specific foods, typically carbs, like something sweet, something rich and carby, right? So everybody experiences a little bit different. Other women are going to get a massive headache before that. Other women, like for example, myself, I go a little bit like more emotionally. I'm a little bit more closed up. Like I want to be by myself. I don't really want to hang out with friends or do phone calls and stuff like that. So it's all the matter of how it impacts different women differently. And this is also when your immune system is at its lowest. So it can feel maybe like a flu, but it's not necessarily a flu. Maria is saying, I have fibroids, end days of cycle and first days after a lot of discomfort in pelvis. Your take on it? Doctors just say surgery or wait until menopause. Yeah, so Maria, I talked a little bit about this already. So why don't you stay tuned for our fibroid phone call day that is coming up. It's on the list of days that's coming up. And let me just take a quick look at the events. So I just want to show you actually, let me see if I can, let me I don't know whether folks on Instagram are going to see it, but Facebook can see it. So you can see here, we're on day 1. You've got a recipe demo, including the morning elixir, which is a really delicious recipe of ginger, turmeric, and lime juice. Tomorrow we're talking about breast health, fibrocystic breast. As you can see, every day there's a recipe demo. There is an expert interview. So tomorrow, for example, you're gonna see the interview with my favorite person, Gabe Walden, about how to do lymphatic massage of your breasts. Then we do live Q&As, and there's some product suggestions here, which in this case is gonna be Happy Sisters. Then we talk about weight gain, hips, and thigh cellulite on Thursday. Then Friday, we're going to have painful periods and PMS, which a lot of women in perimenopause experience that as well. Then on Monday, this is when you want to log in again, and so then you've got all the fibroid solutions here. And then we're talking about hyperthyroidism on Tuesday. Wednesday is hot flashes. On Thursday, we then have detox your products. So we're talking about a kitchen, bathroom, and this is a great interview with Laura Adler. We're going to be opening up these videos every day, you guys, at the beginning of the day. So you have access to all of those, okay? So I hope this is helpful. So where the replay is going to be back at. So replays are going to be available both here on the platform, Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to see the whole page that I shared just now, Jen posted that link. It's on. And by the way, when you guys sign up for... when you guys sign up for the giveaway, there's also you're gonna be getting messages from us about daily updates of what's coming up as well. So can we still ask questions? No, we're gonna be wrapping up questions for today. And let's see the older questions. Will the elimination diet help with thyroid nodules? Nelly is asking. Nelly, so I had thyroid nodules. And so the key with reducing thyroid nodules is addressing estrogen dominance. Diet is definitely the first step. For some women, it's enough. For other women, they need to go deeper. This is where supplements can play a big role. On the first day, if you click on the link, we have the Estrogen Reset Kit, which is a really great starting point. It gives you DIM, sulforaphane, and calcium D-glucarate. Those are the 3 compounds that are super helpful in reducing and addressing estrogen dominance in a holistic way. DIM only helps with phase 1 liver detoxification. The other 2 help the second phase of the liver detoxification. DIM alone doesn't work, you guys. I'll just repeat, DIM alone doesn't work. It needs to be supported by other compounds to evacuate fully those estrogens. And you need to be pooping, by the way. So that's a phase 3 detoxification, right? You need to poop. So yeah, once you have that, and mine have completely disappeared. I have like 0 nodules. I used to have 3 of them. So yes, it's completely possible. All right. Paula is saying my estrogen dominance started when I had Mirena coil removed. What do you think that? Because the Mirena coil is progestin. So you were given progesterone, and now it was removed. Your progesterone to estrogen ratio is off. If I have okay, no, that's old one. Let me go over to, I've got like a few more minutes. Let me go over to Instagram. You guys are such a curious bunch. I just love those questions. Let's see. Is there, So there's questions about where can you listen to it. So it's the website that I talked about. So for those of you on Instagram, our events page has all the content that is coming up, and you can find that on the link in our bio. It's the first one on top, and that's going to take you to a page that shows everything that's coming up. Thank you. So somebody's saying turning 51, not getting my period every month. Yeah, that's very normal. Welcome to perimenopause. And by the way, a lot of how many of you here have felt that ever since you enter perimenopause, like you suddenly got PMS, like as if you were 15 or 19 years old again? Like, have you had that experience? Because I certainly see that with a lot of my girlfriends. We oftentimes, when I do these lives, women saying like they suddenly got PMS from hell. So I'm just curious how many of you are experiencing that here. Where are the supplements listed? They are listed, Adriana, on the events page. So the overcomingestrogendominance.com/events is gonna be right there. Make sure you also, tomorrow I'm gonna be talking about getting updates. There's another thing that we have for you to be getting updates, and so that's gonna be you can just send a DM to us, and then you're gonna be getting updates from us for the 8 days or so. All right, well, hey, listen guys, I hope this is helpful. Yeah, I know it's so this is a very typical comment that we get, is thanks for all the info. My doctors have not given any help in 38 years of visits and some surgeries. Loretta is saying, yeah, I know, I get it. I hear you. I can tell you're not alone here in this. Probably a lot of women can raise their hand as well and saying that's me too. And so, it's the thing is that you're here now and you can help yourself and you can help somebody else who is dear to your life. In fact, one of the things that you can do is tag a couple of women who you think are going to benefit from this. Like, someone who is struggling with fibroids, who had surgeries and fibroids came back, or she's got history of breast cancer that's estrogen receptor positive, or she's got, problems with digestion and she had her gallbladder removed. And after her gallbladder got removed, then she had a lot of problems, hormonal problems, something that doctors don't tell you that, why that happens. And so in the coming days, we can talk more about the gallbladder as we are talking about the liver function and all the good stuff. So I hope this is helpful, you guys. Thank you so much for being here with us on the first day of relaunching something that went into 2 or 3 years of my life went into this book. I hope you love it as much as I loved writing it and helping other women. I'm dedicated to all of you who are struggling today, and giving you the tools and resources of committing, and hopefully you're going to see the results that I and many other women have already seen. So thank you for being here tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. It's going to be at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to be talking about breast health tomorrow. All right, thanks everyone, and have a good evening. Bye for now.